Hey guys, so today was round 11 of the World Chess Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana, but the game petered out into quite a peaceful draw. So I thought it would be more interesting to show you a game from the Women's World Chess Championship. So in one of my previous videos of the Women's World Chess Championship, I covered a game where Katerina Lagno won against Wenjun. That was from round 2 of the match. So this video is going to be a game from round 4. So Lagno only needed a draw in this game with the white pieces to secure the title. This is the position on the board after 12 moves. As you can see, Wenjun with the black pieces is clearly trying to play very aggressively on the king side, which makes sense being that she needs a win to have any chance of defending her title. So in this position, Lagno could have played the move knight to g5 check. So if king g6, then knight back to f3, with the idea of playing knight h4 and then queen to h5. So if black goes king to h7, then white can pretty much repeat moves. So black doesn't really want to play here the move king to h8 because then white would go queen to h5, threatening knight to f7. Also, there is a lot of pressure on h6, so this is already looking quite bad for black. So here after knight g5 check, king g6, knight to f3, threatening knight to h4. Black could try and play on for a win with knight takes d5, knight e7, bishop a2, but with the king on g6, this looks very dodgy. So knight to g5 would have been a very nice move to play for white, without much risk in the position. White either secures a draw or black puts herself in a very awkward spot. But knight g5 wasn't played. Instead, Katerina played the move b4 in this position. We have knight to g6, b5, so knight to a5 from Wenjun. Not knight to e7 because black wants the queen to maintain control of the g5 square to prevent any knight g5 ideas from white. So knight to a5, bishop back to a2, keeping the very strong bishop. Bishop to e6 developing, and queen to a4. Not quite sure what this accomplishes. Maybe white should have played something like bishop to d2 in this position, but queen to a5 was played. b6 from Wenjun, so potentially giving this knight a route back into the game. And now bishop d2 from white. So here rook g8 was played, but the problem with queen a4 becomes apparent here with the move bishop to d7, where black is going to play a6, which would pretty much force white to respond with c4. Which is not something that white wants to do because that would lock in the bishop. So bishop d7 would be a nice move to play, but in this position, rook g8 was played by Wenjun, getting ready for an attack on the king side. Rook a to d1. So perhaps it was better to play in this position rook a to b1 just to stop any bishop d7 or queen to d7 ideas, and a6. So here, after rook a to d1, we have queen to d7. So immediately putting pressure here, a6 is a threat. Knight to h4 was played. This move seems to play into black's hands, because black wouldn't mind exchanging knights since it would quicken his attack on the g file. White is also trading away a very important defender on f3. But more importantly, this move falls into some tactics. So perhaps better instead of knight to h4 was to play king to h1 just to get out of this attack on the g file. But after knight to h4, in this position, Wenjun had the move c4. So just cutting off the coordination of the defense of this bishop on the knight, also the defense of the queen on this knight. So c4 is a very nice move. If knight takes g6, then bishop takes d5. So this knight has to retreat. If white plays d takes c4, attacking the bishop, then here just bishop e6 and after this knight retreats to h4, then bishop f6 attacking the knight, knight f3, and here queen to b7, threatening queen takes f3, and black has a very promising attack. So after knight to h4, c4 was probably a very good move in this position. But here Wenjun plays bishop to h8, also a pretty decent move, just opening up the g file for the rook. Knight takes g6 was played, rook takes g6, queen to h4, and rook a to g8. Threatening rook takes g2, so Katerina plays g3, queen f7 attacking the knight, pretty much forcing white to go c4 in this position. If here knight to e7, then here bishop to f6 from black wins a piece. If bishop takes, then queen takes. This queen has to move, and then bishop takes e7. So if queen to e7, then black simply takes. And then through the series of exchanges, black has two minor pieces for white's rook. So this would also be good for black. So after queen f7, c4 was played. In this position, black should probably have gone f4. This causes a lot of problems for white. So just to illustrate the danger in this position, let's say white goes, for example, rook to b1, then rook to g4. And if queen h3, then rook takes g3, and black wins the queen. So if queen to e7, then simply bishop takes d5, removing the defender of the queen. If queen takes, bishop takes f7. So after f4, white's position is already looking very dangerous. This queen also doesn't have many squares to go to. But instead of the move f4, here bishop to f6 was played. Not the most accurate move, allowing white to stabilize her position. Here knight takes f6, rook takes, f4, locking down the king side, rook to g4, queen h3, and rook f to g6. So immediately this is threatened, e takes f4. Therefore, Katerina defends it, rook to f1. Queen g7 from Wenjun. Still a very tricky position for white. The immediate threat is rook takes g3. So if king to f2, then here e takes f4 is pretty strong. White doesn't want to play g takes f4 because that allows the rook into the position. But if bishop takes f4, then queen to b2 check, attacking the bishop and the king. If rook d2, then rook takes f4, removing the defender of the rook. So here after queen to g7, queen h5 is pretty much the only move which keeps white alive. So putting pressure here, making it difficult for the bishop to reroute on the long diagonal. So you shall see why in a bit. So if rook takes g3, simply h takes, then king to h2. So not king to h1 in this position, because then queen b7 check, and if king h2, queen g2 is mate. So here white would have to block, giving up a rook. And now material is even in this position, and black has a very strong attack. So you don't want this to happen. So here king to h2, if rook g2 check, then king back to h1. And if rook g4, threatening this queen to b7, you simply come back to h2. So things could repeat in this position, but if black tries queen to f6 with the idea of rook to h4, simply king to h3 protecting the square, and in this position black is up a whole rook, and white is up a whole rook, and she should be consolidating, and she should be better in this position. Let's just go back a few moves. So here after king h1, if black plays bishop c8 with the idea of posting up on the long diagonal, then the importance of the queen on h5 comes into play. So here white has to move d4, preparing to play d5 to close the diagonal. If black takes, then here bishop to b1. So putting a lot of pressure on f5. It's quite difficult for black to defend this because the queen also has to maintain defense of the rook on g2. So if bishop b7, here simply take, king h8, and then queen e8 wins the game for white. So queen g8 is the only move. Then you simply take king h2, and here white is up a full rook. So after bishop b1, let's say queen b7 from black. Here simply queen f3, and black is pretty much forced to exchange queens. White again is up a full rook. This should be winning. So here, instead of playing queen to h5, here king to h1 was played. But unfortunately, this loses the game. Now, bishop c8 from Wenjun. So preparing bishop to b7. So here white isn't in time to play d4 because simply takes. Then if bishop b1, bishop b7 check, king g1, and then take on g3, this will be winning. So in the previous position, there was a rook on g2, so bishop b7 didn't come with check, but here this bishop b7 move is fatal. Rook takes g3, then this just wins the queen. So if after this c takes d4, if let's say king to g1 again, rook takes g3, in fact, in this position, white even gets mated here. So after bishop to c8, Katerina tried queen to h5. But now Wenjun just finishes off the game. Bishop b7 check, king g1, rook takes g3, king f2, rook g2 check. And in this position, Katerina Lagno resigned the game because mate is just coming soon for white. If king to e1, then simply queen g3 check, rook f2 is forced, queen takes f2 is mate. So here if king to e3, then queen g3 again check. If rook to f3, then e takes f4 is mate. So a very impressive win from Wenjun in a must-win game. So this forces the match into a 4-game tiebreak, which Wenjun managed to win with a score of 3-1, successfully defending her title. So congratulations to her. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day.